My sister switched my heart medication as a joke. When I collapsed, my parents begged me to keep quiet. But when the toxicology report came back, the doctor's face turned white. What they found in my system wasn't just a prank, it was attempted murder. But my name is Sarah, and this is about how my sister Madison nearly killed me, how my parents tried to cover it up, and how karma served the most brutal justice I've ever witnessed. To understand the full scope of what happened, you need to know about my family dynamic. I'm 24, the older sister by 2 years, and I've lived with a congenital heart condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy since birth. It's not a death sentence, but it requires daily medication and careful monitoring. My younger sister Madison has always been what you'd call the golden child, prettier, more outgoing, and somehow always managed to make my parents believe she could do no wrong. Madison works as a pharmacy technician at a CVS downtown, a job she got right after barely graduating high school. She's always been jealous of the attention my medical condition brings me, constantly making snide comments about how I milk it for sympathy. She'd roll her eyes whenever I took my medication, metoprolol, twice daily without fail. She called me pill popper Sarah behind my back, thinking I couldn't hear her. The setup for what happened began 3 months ago when Madison started dating Travis, a guy she met at some bar. Travis was trouble from day one, covered in tattoos, unemployed, and always asking Madison for money. My parents, Robert and Linda, surprisingly loved him. They thought he was edgy and interesting, unlike my boyfriend Jake, who they considered boring because he's an accountant. Madison had been acting strange for weeks before the incident. She'd hover around when I took my medication, asking weird questions about what would happen if I missed doses or took the wrong pills. I thought she was just being her usual nosy self. I had no idea she was planning something that would literally stop my heart. The day it happened was a Tuesday in March. I was getting ready for work at the marketing firm where I'm a project coordinator when I took my morning dose of metoprolol. The pills looked exactly the same as always, small, white, round tablets. I thought nothing of it and headed to work. About 2 hours into my workday, I started feeling off. My heart began racing uncontrollably, and I felt dizzy and nauseous. I initially thought it might be stress from a big presentation I had that afternoon, but within minutes, I was sweating profusely and could barely catch my breath. My coworker Jenny noticed something was wrong when I slumped over my desk. "Sarah, you look terrible. Are you okay?" she asked, rushing over to me. "I can't breathe properly," I gasped. "Something's wrong with my heart." The next thing I remember is waking up in an ambulance with paramedics working frantically over me. One of them was saying something about my heart rate being dangerously high and my blood pressure crashing. I must have lost consciousness at work. At the hospital, Dr. Martinez, my cardiologist who'd been treating me for years, looked genuinely puzzled. "Sarah, your symptoms don't match what I'd expect from your condition, even during a severe episode. I'm ordering a full toxicology screen along with your usual cardiac tests." My parents arrived within the hour, Madison trailing behind them with crocodile tears streaming down her face. "Oh my God, Sarah. I was so scared when Mom called." She wailed, throwing her arms around me in what everyone else probably saw as sisterly concern. But I felt her whisper in my ear, "Don't you dare say anything about your pills." That's when it hit me. Madison had done something to my medication. Dr. Martinez came back with preliminary results that made him frown deeply. "Sarah, I need to ask you something important. Have you taken any medications today other than your prescribed metoprolol?" "No," I said weakly. "Just my regular heart medication this morning." He exchanged glances with my parents and Madison, then asked to speak with them privately outside. Through the thin hospital walls, I could hear muffled arguing. My father's voice was the loudest. "This could ruin her future. She's just a kid who made a mistake." When they returned, my parents looked pale and Madison appeared to be genuinely panicking now. Dr. Martinez sat down beside my bed with a grave expression. "Sarah, the preliminary toxicology results show traces of Adderall in your system, specifically, a very high dose of dextroamphetamine. For someone with your heart condition, this combination could have been fatal. The interaction between the amphetamine and your cardiac medication caused your heart to go into what we call supraventricular tachycardia. You're lucky to be alive." Madison burst into tears. "It was just a prank. I didn't know it would actually hurt her. I just wanted to see if she'd notice the difference." My parents immediately went into damage control mode. My mother grabbed Madison's arm. "Madison, stop talking right now." She turned to me with pleading eyes. "Sarah, honey, Madison didn't mean any harm. She's young and stupid, but she's not malicious. Please don't make this bigger than it needs to be." My father chimed in, "Think about what this could do to her career, Sarah. She could lose her pharmacy license before she even gets fully certified. The family would be devastated if this got out." I was too weak and shocked to respond properly, but the implications were sinking in. My sister had deliberately switched my life-saving medication with powerful stimulants that could have killed me, and my parents wanted me to just forgive and forget. Dr. Martinez, however, was not having any of it. "I'm sorry, but I'm legally obligated to report this. Tampering with someone's prescription medication, especially in a case that resulted in hospitalization, is a serious crime. I have to involve the authorities." My parents spent the next 3 days begging me not to press charges. Madison cried constantly, insisting it was just a stupid prank and that she never intended to actually hurt me. She claimed she'd gotten the Adderall from a friend and just wanted to see if I'd get hyper like people do in college. She swore she had no idea it could interact with my heart medication. I wanted to believe her. Despite everything, she was still my little sister. Maybe I could have forgiven her if she'd shown genuine remorse and understanding of what she'd done. But then Dr. Martinez called me with the full toxicology report results, and his tone was completely different. "Sarah, I need you to come in immediately. There's something very serious we need to discuss." When I arrived at his office the next morning, Dr. Martinez looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His usually calm demeanor was replaced with barely contained anger and concern. "Sarah, sit down." The complete toxicology results came back, and what we found goes far beyond a prank. He pulled out a thick file and opened it in front of me. The blood work shows not just Adderall, but a cocktail of substances that were clearly chosen to interact dangerously with your metoprolol. My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "We found traces of pseudoephedrine, caffeine pills, and phenylephrine, all stimulants that would amplify the dangerous cardiac effects when combined with your medication. This wasn't random pills thrown together. Someone researched what would create the most dangerous interaction with your specific heart condition." He pulled out printed pages that looked like internet search results. The police investigated Madison's computer and phone. They found extensive searches about drug interactions with metoprolol, specifically searches about what happens when heart patients take stimulants and how to cause heart attacks with medication. "Sarah, this wasn't a prank. This was a calculated attempt to cause you serious harm, possibly even to kill you." The room started spinning. My own sister had researched how to potentially kill me and then carried it out. Dr. Martinez continued, "There's more. The pharmacy where Madison works has security cameras. The police reviewed the footage and found recordings of her stealing the medications she used. She'd also accessed the pharmacy's drug interaction database multiple times to research the specific combinations. The computer logs show she spent hours researching the most dangerous possible combinations." I felt like I was going to be sick. But why? Why would she want to hurt me? The police found text messages between Madison and her boyfriend Travis. "I'm sorry, Sarah, but you need to know the truth." He slid another document across the desk. "They were planning to collect on a life insurance policy your parents took out on you when you were diagnosed with your heart condition. Madison was listed as a beneficiary." The pieces fell into place with horrifying clarity. Madison and Travis had planned this whole thing as a way to get money. My sister had literally tried to murder me for an insurance payout. When the police arrested Madison at work 2 days later, the entire plan unraveled. Travis immediately flipped and provided evidence of their scheme, including recordings of Madison talking about how easy it would be to make my death look like an accident related to my heart condition. My parents were devastated, but their reaction made everything worse. Instead of being horrified that one daughter had tried to kill the other, they were more concerned about the family's reputation and Madison's future. "Sarah, she's going to prison," my mother sobbed. "Your own sister is going to prison because you couldn't just forgive her mistake." Mistake? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, she tried to murder me for insurance money." My father stepped in with his usual logic, "Even if that's true, she's still family. Families protect each other. You're alive, and that's what matters. Dragging this to the courts will destroy all of us." That's when I realized my parents would never truly have my back. Their golden child had attempted murder, and they still wanted me to be the one to make sacrifices. Before the trial even began, the media circus started. Our small town of Millbrook had never seen anything like this, a pharmacy technician trying to murder her own sister for insurance money. The local newspaper, the Millbrook Herald, ran front-page stories for weeks. The headline that still haunts me read, "Local woman poisoned by sister in insurance scheme." My life became a fishbowl overnight. Reporters camped outside my apartment, Coworkers whispered when they thought I couldn't hear, and strangers at the grocery store would stare and point. I had to take a leave of absence from work because the stress was affecting my heart condition, which meant I was stuck at home watching news coverage of my own near-death experience. The worst part was seeing Madison on the news during her perp walk. She had the audacity to look wounded and confused, as if she couldn't understand why everyone was making such a big deal about her mistake. Her booking photo showed her crying, and the caption reads something like "Tearful sister claims it was just a prank gone wrong." Jake was incredible during this time. He basically moved in to help take care of me and shield me from the media attention. He fielded phone calls from reporters, grocery shops so I wouldn't have to face the stares, and held me when I had panic attacks about taking my medication. Even though the pills were now coming directly from the pharmacy in blister packs that couldn't be tampered with, I still had anxiety every time I had to swallow them. My parents, meanwhile, hired the most expensive defense attorney they could find, a slick guy named Richard Blackwood from the state capitol who specialized in high-profile criminal cases. They took out a second mortgage on their house to pay his retainer fee. This attorney immediately began a media campaign to paint Madison as a troubled young woman who'd made a terrible mistake, not a calculated attempted murderer. I remember seeing my mother on the local news, pleading Madison's case. Madison is a good girl who made a horrible error in judgment. She's not a monster. She's always loved her sister, and this was just a prank that went terribly wrong. We're asking the community to show compassion for our family during this difficult time. Watching my own mother minimize my near-death experience as a prank gone wrong while I was still recovering from the trauma felt like being stabbed all over again. The preliminary hearings were brutal. I had to testify about what happened, reliving every moment of that terrifying day when my heart nearly stopped. Madison's attorney, Blackwood, tried to paint me as vindictive and unforgiving, suggesting that I was exaggerating the severity of what happened because I was jealous of Madison's relationship with our parents. "Isn't it true, Miss Patterson, that you've always resented your sister for being more popular and outgoing than you?" he asked during cross-examination. "No," I replied firmly. "I've never resented Madison for her personality. I resented that she tried to kill me." Blackwood pressed on, "But you admit there's been sibling rivalry between you two?" "There's a difference between sibling rivalry and attempted murder, Mr. Blackwood." The prosecutor, District Attorney Rebecca Chen, was fantastic. She was a tough woman in her 40s who'd built her career on complex criminal cases. During our preparation meetings, she explained the strategy. "Madison's team is going to try to make this about family dysfunction and sibling rivalry," Chen told me. "They want the jury to see this as a family squabble that got out of hand, not a premeditated murder attempt. We need to stay focused on the evidence, the research, the planning, the theft of medications, and the clear intent to cause you serious harm." As we dug deeper into Madison's activities leading up to the incident, more disturbing details emerged. The police had obtained warrants for her social media accounts, and what they found was chilling. She'd been posting cryptic messages on Instagram and Facebook for months before the attack, things like "some people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone and karma has a way of evening things out." More troubling were her private messages with Travis. In addition to discussing the insurance money, they'd also talked about what they would do with their lives once I was out of the picture. Travis had sent Madison links to apartments they could rent together, vacation destinations they could visit, and even engagement rings he wanted to buy her with the insurance payout. One text message exchange particularly stood out. "Madison, are you sure this will work? What if she survives?" "Travis, baby, trust me. With her heart thing, even if she doesn't die, she'll probably have brain damage from the oxygen loss. Either way, she won't be a problem anymore. Madison, I just want her gone. I'm so tired of everything being about Sarah and her stupid heart. When we get the money, it'll finally be about us." These messages were read aloud in court, and I watched Madison's face crumble as she realized how damning her own words were. Her parents, my parents, sat in the gallery behind her, my mother weeping silently and my father staring straight ahead with a stone-cold expression. The trial lasted 8 months, but it felt like years. The evidence was overwhelming: the internet searches, the stolen medications, the text messages with Travis, and the security footage all painted a clear picture of premeditated attempted murder. Madison's defense attorney tried to argue it was just a prank gone wrong, but the prosecution's case was ironclad. During the trial, more disturbing details emerged. Madison had been slowly replacing my medication with placebos for weeks before the big event, testing to see how much she could get away with without me noticing. The Adderall incident was supposed to be the final act that would either kill me or leave me brain damage from oxygen deprivation. The pharmacy's internal investigation revealed that Madison had been stealing medications for months, not just for this incident but for various schemes. They found evidence she'd been selling prescription drugs to college students, using her access to feed a small but profitable side business. The attempted murder was just the culmination of a pattern of criminal behavior that had been escalating for over a year. Dr. Martinez testified as an expert witness about the specific effects of the drug combination Madison had used. His testimony was devastating for the defense. The combination of medications found in Miss Patterson's system was not random, he explained to the jury. Each drug was specifically chosen to amplify the other's effects on someone with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. This level of pharmacological knowledge required research and planning. Someone simply grabbing random pills from a medicine cabinet could not have achieved this precise and dangerous combination. When asked about the potential outcomes, Dr. Martinez was blunt: if Miss Patterson had taken even one more pill, or if she had been alone when the cardiac event occurred, she would have died. The combination was designed to cause maximum cardiac stress while maintaining plausible deniability. It would have looked like a tragic accident related to her pre-existing condition. The most damaging testimony came from Madison's former co-worker at the pharmacy, Angela Rodriguez. Angela testified that Madison had asked her multiple questions about drug interactions and had specifically inquired about what medications would be dangerous for heart patients. Madison asked me what would happen if someone with a heart condition accidentally took the wrong medication, Angela testified. She said she was asking for a friend whose sister had heart problems. I thought she was just being curious about pharmacy work, so I explained about contraindications and dangerous drug interactions. I had no idea she was planning to use that information to hurt someone. Angela also revealed that Madison had asked her to cover shifts specifically on days when certain medications were being delivered to the pharmacy. This allowed Madison to steal the drugs she needed without being detected by the automated inventory system. The testimony that broke my heart the most came from our family friend, Mrs. Henderson, who had known Madison and me since we were children. She testified about conversations she'd had with Madison over the years about feeling overshadowed by my medical condition. Madison told me she felt like Sarah got all the attention because of her heart problems, Mrs. Henderson testified tearfully. She said she felt invisible in her own family. I told her that wasn't true, that her parents loved both girls equally, but she seemed convinced that Sarah's medical needs made her the favorite child. Mrs. Henderson continued, I never imagined those feelings of jealousy would lead to something like this. Madison was always a sweet girl, but she had a mean streak when she felt wronged. I should have said something to their parents, but I thought it was normal sibling rivalry. Travis's testimony was particularly revealing about their relationship dynamic and how the murder plot developed. He admitted that he had initially suggested the insurance scheme after learning about my heart condition during a family dinner. Madison was complaining about how her parents spent so much money on Sarah's medical bills and how Sarah would probably inherit everything because of her condition. Travis testified on their immunity. I mentioned that life insurance pays out a lot for accidental deaths, and Madison got this look in her eyes like I'd just solved all her problems. Travis described how Madison became obsessed with the idea over several weeks. She researched my medication schedule, learned about my daily routines, and even tried to find out if I had any other medical conditions that could be exploited. She was meticulous about it, Travis continued. She made spreadsheets about drug interactions, timed how long it took paramedics to respond to different areas of town, and even researched which hospitals had the best cardiac units. She wanted to make sure that if Sarah survived, there wouldn't be any permanent evidence of what had happened. The prosecution also presented evidence of Madison's internet search history, which painted a picture of someone who had been planning this for months. Her searches included: how long before heart medication stops working, signs of accidental drug overdose, can autopsy detect switched medication, life insurance payout for accidental death versus natural death, best way to hide evidence of medication tampering. The defense tried to argue that these searches were just Madison being curious about my medical condition and trying to understand what I was going through. But the specific and systematic nature of the searches, combined with the timeline that coincided with her stealing medications from work, made it clear this was research for criminal activity. During her testimony, Madison finally took the stand in her own defense. This was against her attorney's advice, but she insisted she needed to tell her side of the story. What she said during 3 days of testimony only made things worse for her case. Madison claimed that she had initially only intended to make me sick, not kill me. She said she thought if I had a minor cardiac episode, our parents would finally see how fragile I was and would stop expecting so much from me in terms of family responsibilities and achievements. I just wanted Sarah to understand what it felt like to not be perfect for once, Madison testified. She'd always got praised for being strong and handling her condition so well. I thought if she had a little scare, maybe Mom and Dad would baby her for a while and I could get some attention too. But under cross-examination from DHN, Madison's story fell apart completely. Miss Patterson, if you only intended to make your sister a little sick, why did you research fatal drug combinations? DHN asked. I wanted to make sure I didn't accidentally give her something that would actually hurt her, Madison replied weakly. But your internet search history shows you researching lethal doses of heart medication and how to cause heart attack in young person. How does that align with your claim that you only wanted to make her a little sick? Madison broke down crying on the stand. I don't know. I was confused and angry and Travis kept pushing me to think bigger. I didn't really want to kill her. Miss Patterson, you sent a text message to Travis saying, and I quote, "Once Sarah's gone, we'll have everything we ever wanted." How do you explain that? Madison's composure completely cracked. I was just fantasizing. I didn't mean it literally. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. When they returned with guilty verdicts on all counts, attempted murder in the first degree, theft, and conspiracy, Madison collapsed in her chair. My parents rushed to comfort her while I sat in the victims section, finally feeling like justice might actually be served. Travis testified that Madison had said she was tired of Sarah getting all the attention and money from Mom and Dad because of her stupid heart thing. She felt entitled to the insurance money and saw my medical condition as an opportunity rather than something deserving of sympathy. Madison was ultimately convicted of attempted murder in the first degree and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Travis received 7 years as an accessory. The judge called it one of the most callous and premeditated attempts at fratricide he'd ever seen. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn, because karma had its own plans for my family. The sentencing phase was where things got really ugly between me and my parents. During victim impact statements, I spoke about how the attempted murder had affected every aspect of my life, my health, my ability to trust people, my career, and my relationships. I talked about the panic attacks I now had when taking medication, the therapy I needed to process the trauma, and the way I now looked at every pill bottle with suspicion and fear. My parents, however, chose to use their opportunity to speak at sentencing to plead for leniency for Madison. My mother stood up and addressed the judge directly. "Your Honor, Madison is not the monster the prosecutor has painted her to be. She's a troubled young woman who made a terrible mistake. She was influenced by a manipulative boyfriend and was dealing with untreated mental health issues. She's already lost everything, her job, her freedom, her reputation. Please don't take away her entire future for one moment of poor judgment." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Even at sentencing, after months of evidence showing that Madison had planned to murder me, my own mother was still minimizing what had happened and asking for mercy for my attempted killer. My father followed with his own plea, "Judge, our family has been torn apart by this tragedy. We've already lost one daughter to prison. Please don't make her sentence so long that we lose her forever. Madison has learned her lesson, and with proper treatment and supervision, she can become a productive member of society again." When the judge asked if I wanted to respond to my parents' statements, I stood up and spoke directly to them, not the court. "Mom, Dad, I am your daughter too. I am the one who almost died. I am the one who now lives in fear every single day. But throughout this entire process, you have shown more concern for Madison's future than for my life. You have never once asked me how I'm healing from this trauma. You have never once expressed gratitude that I survived your other daughter's murder attempt. Instead, you spent every conversation trying to convince me to minimize what happened and protect Madison from consequences." I turned to address Madison directly. "Madison, I don't forgive you. I don't wish you well. I don't hope you find peace or redemption. You researched how to kill me, planned my murder for months, and carried it out. The only reason I'm alive is luck and good medical care. You deserve every single day of whatever sentence this judge gives you." The judge, the Honorable Patricia Williams, was clearly moved by the evidence and the victim impact statements. When she handed down Madison's sentence, her words were scathing. "Miss Patterson, this court has seen many cases of sibling rivalry, family disputes, and even domestic violence between family members. But rarely have I seen such calculated, cold-blooded planning to murder a family member for financial gain. Your actions were not a moment of passion or poor judgment. They were the result of months of planning, research, and deliberate steps to end your sister's life." Judge Williams continued, "The evidence shows that you researched the most effective ways to cause your sister's death while making it appear accidental. You stole medications from your workplace, violated your professional responsibilities, and manipulated family dynamics to position yourself as the grieving sister who would benefit from your victim's death. This represents a level of premeditation and callousness that demands the fullest extent of the law. Madison was ultimately convicted of attempted murder in the first degree and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Travis received 7 years as an accessory. The judge called it one of the most callous and premeditated attempts at fratricide he'd ever seen. The aftermath of the sentencing was when my relationship with my parents completely disintegrated. They were furious with me for not showing mercy during my victim impact statement and for not pleading with the judge for a lighter sentence for Madison. You could have asked for leniency, my mother said coldly as we left the courthouse. You could have told the judge that you forgave her and wanted her to get help instead of punishment. But you chose revenge instead. I chose justice, I replied. There's a difference. My father shook his head. We raised you better than this, Sarah. Family should forgive family. Did you raise Madison to murder family? I shot back. Because that's what she did. She didn't steal $20 or crash the car or get caught smoking weed. She tried to kill me. And you two have spent more time being angry at me for surviving than being angry at her for attempting murder. That was the last civil conversation I had with my parents for months. 6 months after Madison's sentencing, my parents were facing serious financial difficulties. The legal fees from her defense had drained their savings, and my father's business was struggling because of the negative publicity from the trial. Local news had covered the story extensively, and people in our small town weren't eager to do business with the family of an attempted murderer. My mother called me one evening, crying. Sarah, honey, we need help. The house is going into foreclosure, and your father's business is failing. We know we haven't been the best parents through this whole thing, but you're the only one who can help us now. I listened to her plead for financial assistance, explaining how they'd lost everything trying to save Madison. She wanted me to take out loans or use my savings to help them keep their house. Mom, I said calmly, Madison tried to kill me, and you both asked me to cover it up to protect her. You cared more about her reputation than my life. Why would you think I'd help you now? Because we're family, she cried. Family helps family. You're right, I replied. Family should help family. Where was that energy when your daughter was trying to murder me? I hung up and blocked their numbers. 2 months later, my parents lost their house. My father's business went bankrupt, and they had to move into a small apartment across town. The stress of everything caused my mother to have a nervous breakdown, and she was hospitalized for 3 weeks. During this time, I received a letter from Madison in prison. She was finally ready to apologize, not the fake tears and manipulation from before, but what seemed like genuine remorse. Sarah, the letter read, I know I can't undo what I did to you. I was jealous, stupid, and greedy. I let Travis convince me that you were the reason our parents never paid attention to me, and I believed that getting rid of you would solve all my problems. I see now how insane and evil that thinking was. I don't expect forgiveness, and I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that I understand now how much I hurt you, and I'm genuinely sorry. The letter continued for 3 pages, detailing how prison had given her time to reflect on her actions and how she'd been seeing a therapist to understand her jealousy and resentment. She didn't ask for anything from me, no visits, no money for commissary, nothing. It was just an apology. I wrote her back once. I told her that while I appreciated her apology, forgiveness wasn't something I was ready to consider. I explained how her actions had destroyed not just our relationship, but my relationship with our parents and my ability to trust people in general. I let her know that I hoped she would use her time in prison to become a better person, but that I wouldn't be part of that journey. A year after the trial ended, I received an unexpected call from a lawyer. Apparently, my parents had listed me as the beneficiary on their life insurance policies years ago and had never changed it. My father had suffered a massive heart attack, the irony wasn't lost on me, and my mother had died in a car accident just 2 months later. I inherited everything they had left, which admittedly wasn't much after all the legal fees and financial troubles. But it included the life insurance policies that totaled nearly $400,000. The lawyer also informed me that Madison would be eligible for parole in 8 years with good behavior, but that she'd signed legal documents renouncing any claim to the inheritance or any future family assets. She'd also written a formal letter to be given to me upon our parents' deaths. In that letter, Madison wrote, Sarah, I know that our parents' deaths must be devastating for you, and I'm sorry you're dealing with this alone. I also know that the money you're inheriting is money that I tried to steal from you through murder. I want you to know that I sign away any rights to it freely and without resentment. I hope you use it to build a good life for yourself, far away from the pain that our family caused you. You deserve better parents and a better sister than what you got. Today, 3 years after the trial, I've rebuilt my life completely. I moved across the country to Seattle, used part of the inheritance to buy a small house, and started my own marketing consulting business. Jake and I are engaged now, and he's been incredibly supportive through everything. I still take my heart medication every day, but now I have a locked medication box that only I have the combination to. I've had to work through a lot of trust issues with a therapist, but I'm getting better. Madison has 7 more years on her sentence. I've heard through mutual acquaintances that she's been a model prisoner, earned her GED, and is working toward a college degree through a prison program. Part of me hopes she really has changed, but I have no intention of finding out personally. Sometimes people ask me if I feel guilty about not helping my parents when they were struggling financially, or if I regret not showing Madison more forgiveness. The answer is no on both counts. My parents chose to protect my attempted murderer over their victim. They valued Madison's future over my life and my safety. When the consequences of that choice came back to haunt them, I felt no obligation to shield them from those consequences. As for Madison, attempted murder isn't a mistake or a momentary lapse in judgment. It's a deliberate choice to value your own desires over another person's life. The fact that she's my sister doesn't change that or obligate me to forgive her. I've learned that family isn't about blood relations or shared genetics. It's about people who value your life and well-being, who protect you when you're vulnerable, and who celebrate your successes instead of resenting them. By that definition, Jake is more family to me than Madison or my parents ever were. The most twisted part of this whole experience is that Madison got exactly what she claimed to want, all of my parents' attention and resources. They spent their savings, their health, and ultimately their lives dealing with the consequences of her actions. She just had to destroy her own life and nearly end mine to get it. I don't know what the future holds, but I know it doesn't include the people who tried to kill me or the people who try to cover it up. Some bridges are meant to be burned, and some family ties are meant to be severed. 3 years later, I'm not the same person I was before Madison switched my pills. I'm harder, more cautious, and slower to trust. But I'm also stronger, more independent, and absolutely certain of my own worth. I know now that I don't have to accept mistreatment just because it comes from family, and I don't have to set myself on fire to keep other people warm. Madison wanted to see me disappear so she could take my place as the center of attention and the recipient of our parents' resources. Instead, she disappeared into prison. Our parents destroyed themselves trying to save her, and I inherited the life she thought she was entitled to. Sometimes the best revenge is just living well while the people who tried to destroy you face the natural consequences of their choices. Madison will spend the next 7 years thinking about how her jealousy and greed cost her everything, while I build the life she tried to steal from me. And honestly, that feels like justice to me.